earnings. Profit there coming to $5.12 a share. That trounced the consensus estimate of $4.20. Revenue also beating the street's forecast. And joining us right now is AutoNation's Chief Executive Officer, Mike Jackson. Mike, it's a pretty good time to be a car salesman, isn't it?
Becky, good morning. Good to see you. Yes, I would say so. Revenue up 18% to $6.4 billion, driven by our strategy of that when production was restricted, we moved aggressively into the acquisition of pre-owned cars, and our pre-owned revenue, in order to give our customers more choices, was up 50% in the quarter. And of course, we've taken appropriate pricing action around new vehicles. And we have a very optimistic view of auto retail, and so have aggressively repurchased our shares. I think it's a very good investment. We repurchased 11% of the outstanding shares just in the third quarter. And if I look over the past year, that's a 27% repurchase of outstanding shares. So 115% increase in earnings per share year over year to $5.12.
So, Mike, let's talk about this, because the hardship has got to be getting enough product to get it in to meet the demand, I would guess, at this point. Is that what you run into? And how do you get around that and still come out with great numbers?
Exactly. That has been the dilemma and the challenge. And, you know, in life, you have to accept what you can't change and then look at the opportunities you have. And that's clearly what AutoNation has done in a spectacular way that has led, imagine, to 6 consecutive all-time record quarters. And it shows the adaptability and the viability of our business model, and the fact that we've built a strong brand, a great customer experience, a digital platform. So again, the key components, look, we aggressively acquired pre-owned the minutes that the factories shut down, realizing our customers would be willing to buy nearly new because the demand for automobiles increased significantly already in April 2020. You know, the American spirit of independence and deciding where they want to go, when they want to go, they was a key component of how to get through this pandemic and decide who's in the vehicle with them. So we embraced that. And if you look at our performance of 6 straight all-time records, I think our strategy is performing extremely well.
You were smarter than the car manufacturers on that point, because a lot of them were ready to kind of say, no, we're not going to take additional supplies coming in. That's part of the reason that we've seen this supply crunch, although at this point, there's kind of no around this. It looks like a problem that's going to last out to next year. How do you continue to perform when you're not going to be able to go back to the same playbook? It's going to be a little tougher this time around.
Well, absolutely, we'll have the same playbook, Becky. But I would also say, in fairness to the manufacturers, look, the entire global supply chain for automotive shut down in the spring of 2020. And restarting it is a colossal, epic undertaking. And then you had significant disruptions of chip manufacturing. There was a fire at a key chip plant in Japan that significantly impacted automotive. So really, the manufacturers have tried to move heaven and earth to get production back to just trend. But imagine, here we are now in the fourth quarter of 21, and it's still not back. And I think we're really into next year until production is back at trend. But in the meantime, pent-up demand is being rolled and building, not decreasing. We have a lot of customers who tell us, look, I'll pay this price now. Other customers say, okay, I'll take pre-owned. But we have many, many customers who say, look, I'm going to get something next year. And so when production does get back to a more normal level, I don't see that going into inventory. We are pre-selling what's being scheduled to produce, and they're coming in and going right out. So the idea that we're going to have significant inventories, well, I don't know when that happens.
Hey,
but the
Mike,
demand is there. That's the headline.
Brian Sullivan, good to chat with you again. I think this is your last earnings call as the CEO and chairman, so you've been a great friend to CNBC for forever, and we appreciate it. Let's talk about cars. 67% sales jump in over 2 years. I mean, used cars, simply insane. We talk a lot about EVs. Tesla, their earnings out last night, the numbers were fantastic. I understand electrification is seen as the future. The majority of the cars you're selling are internal combustion, ICE engines. Most Americans drive their car between 8 and 12 years. If you're buying cars now, theoretically, you're going to drive them for the next decade, and there are millions buying cars. Do you see a scenario where the combustion engine may be with us a lot longer than some of the more bearish projections out there, given the fact that everybody's buying cars now? They're not going to switch to an EV in 3 years.
So, Brian, look, the headline again is the industry is pivoted to electrification. That's where the forward capital is going. There's no turning back, and this is a global issue. Having said that, you're absolutely right. As far as the vehicles on the road of America primarily being moved by internal combustion engines, that is the way it will be for decades. You know, there's 275, 280 million vehicles on the road of America. And what a lot of people miss is when they say, well, the average car, you know, lasts 12 years. No, that's the average age of a car on the roads of America, meaning these cars are lasting, to your point, 20, 22 years. And so, yes, electrification will gradually increase as a percent of the sales, and we embrace it, and we're excited about the electric vehicles coming from the manufacturer. And when you go to AutoNation.com, there's an electrification button there, and we offer the greatest choice of electrification of anyone. But it's not like the transition from a flip phone to a smartphone, where the flip phone became obsolete. No, all these internal combustion engines have value on the roads of America. And don't forget, electric vehicles are still expensive, more expensive than an internal combustion engine. And there's a whole segment of the population that depend on internal combustion engines to get to their job, get to school, and every other thing they need to do in life. So it's underway. There's no turning back. The industry embraces it. But as far as the changeover of the fleet, on the roads of America, it's going to be a long journey.
Hey, Mike, Brian mentioned this, but you are leaving the company after running it for most of the last 22 years, and I think coming on Squawk Box throughout that entire time. We've loved having you as a guest, kind of looking back down memory lane here, some of the things that we've had you on before. This was many years ago. But we just want to thank you for coming on with us, always being very open and telling us everything you really think, seeing the auto industry and the changes along the way. And again, almost 22 years now that you've been here with us. We've loved having you. And are you really leaving this time?
So, Becky, first, that's very kind of you to say. And yes, it's 22 straight years. I never missed an earnings call, sun shining or rainy day. We discussed whatever was going on in the industry. And we have an exciting and thrilling new CEO, Mike Manley. He's a world-class global executive. That is one of the most respected, admired executives in the auto industry. And we are thrilled. As of November 1, he's going to be leading AutoNation. And yes, I'll be cheering from the grandstands.
Mike Manley is the former CEO of Fiat Chrysler. Mike Jackson, we will miss you, and we'll see you back here again very soon. Thank you, Mike.
Excellent, Becky. Great. Thank you.
Great to see you.
They're going to give Mike Jackson